As we got more serious, I introduced Wayne to my closest friends, and to my surprise, they accepted him without question. He was the polar opposite of me when it came to social gatherings. It was as if reading the room was a secret talent of his. Low-key, I was starting to think my friends liked him more than they liked me. After a year and a half of dating, Wayne and I decided it was time to meet each other's parents. I was nervous because my mother was a bit hard to please, but when I brought him home for Thanksgiving, it was as if Wayne had her wrapped around his finger. She approached him with a typical unaccepting attitude, but as he helped her in the kitchen, washed the dishes, took out the trash, and even acted as though he were interested in her recipes, her entire demeanor changed. Okay, maybe he actually was interested in her recipes, but it was still like watching a magician work magic. When we were leaving, she muttered
"He's a good one, I guess, but keep an eye on him."
I had half a mind to think that if I fumbled him, my mom would pick him up in the meantime. Wayne and I bonded over the fact that we were both from single-parent households. But even though his parents were separated, he always visited his mother twice a month, which always made me smile. He was different with his mom. I mean, I guess most guys are, but it was as if they were old friends catching up on the times together. When I finally did get a chance to meet her, she was stunning. He shared her soft features, but the soft-spoken tone of her voice surprised me because it made it seem like she was fragile. All in all, she was literally an angel. I remember asking her about Wayne's childhood years, but she looked down and diverted to his teenage years instead. In full disclosure, Wayne has admitted that his teen years weren't the best. He dabbled in quite a few things before stumbling back on the right path, but he did open up about how much of a godsend his mother was. When she pulled out the family picture book, I was hoping to see baby pictures, but it was as if that was skipped over in favor of his teen years. I wanted to ask about it, but she just kept telling more and more stories and pointing out photos. She was genuinely having a good time, so I didn't want to interrupt. In truth, I'm not much of a talker, so the fact that she took over most of our conversations actually made me happy. But it wasn't until after Wayne and I got engaged a few years later that her and I had a conversation that would change everything. Most of my conversations with Wayne's mom were interesting because we had a lot in common, and she showed interest in a lot of things that I liked, like anime, crocheting, recipes. But whenever we talked about Wayne's childhood, she would always talk about his current years and his teen years, but never anything beforehand. When I brought the topic up to Wayne, he simply dismissed it by saying that his mom didn't too much like talking about the past, especially since his dad left them somewhere in that time frame of when he was a child. I could tell that Wayne's father not being in his life was a sore subject for him, so we never really talked about it too much, and I started to wonder if that was the reason why they didn't have any old pictures of Wayne. Perhaps his father was in them and it was too painful to look at them. Now, this was just a guess of my own, but it seemed reasonable. My mom didn't like looking at old pictures of my father, especially after he left us, so it was my own little take on it. On my last visit with his mom, we engaged in typical conversation, but when I brought up how great I thought it was that Wayne made an effort to drive over an hour and 45 minutes from college twice a month to see her, to my surprise, she paused.
"Twice?"
she asked.
"Yeah, he usually schedules them about a week or two apart. Wayne only comes to see me once a month. Twice would just be silly. Can you imagine the gas?"
she joked. I tried to muster a small chuckle, but I think my face was a dead giveaway to my confusion, because it became clear to me in that moment that Wayne had been lying to me. If he wasn't coming to see his mom twice a month, then what was he doing here?